I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 154. You don't already know. I'm Kev Tardello, coming to you on Tuesday, February 27th. And the Bobcats got their man. How about it? GJ Kinney pulls an ace out of his sleeve, and it's the Sun Belt Player of the Year from 2023. James Madison quarterback Jordan McCloud transferring to Texas State, committed to the Bobcats over the weekend. He's already signed, sealed, and delivered. He's on campus. Starts class next week. I'm as confused as you from all that, but we'll unpack it. We're going to unpack a lot of this. What a saga for the quarterback position for Texas State in the 2 months since the bowl game. But here we are. When the smoke is all cleared, the Bobcats have Jordan McCloud in maroon and gold. How about it? We'll unpack it. We're going to talk all about it. This is going to be a nice Jordan McCloud episode. Been a minute since we've been on the air. Good to jump back on and talk about some positivity, some good news for the Bobcats. We knew GJ had it in him. You know, we knew it. We saw it last season with the two SEC quarterbacks he brings in. He goes and gets Malik Hornsby after spring, and then he goes and gets TJ Finley. I'm sorry, he gets Hornsby before spring, gets Finley after spring. We've seen him be able to work the transfer portal and find quarterbacks, find value, even late in the process, such as this one. Towards the end of February, he's bringing in his guy. How about it? We'll talk about it. We'll get there. But before we get there, this episode is sponsored by TGC LLC, the Galindo Collective.com. That's GALINDO, the Galindo Collective.com. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But they're also on Instagram and Facebook, the Galindo Collective, on those two platforms. Shout out to Rick Galindo, a true Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad. He has been our strongest sponsor, been with us since last May, almost a whole year. The Galindo Collective has been with us. I guess they officially started in July, but we made our deal last May. And he's still with us. Shout out to Rick Galindo. Again, that's the GalindoCollective.com. We are also sponsored by Chilsey.com. Custom tumblers, custom koozies. Here's some of those koozies right here. Some Win Now or Get Bit koozies. I hope some of you are utilizing the ones you picked up from me during the football season. I've also got a nice tumbler right here. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. I am holding up a Win Now or Get Bent tumbler. You can get any custom logo you want on a tumbler, a koozie, whatever you're looking for, whether it's a work gathering, a family retreat, you're just meeting up with the guys on a Saturday and you want to get some cool logoed gear, hit up chilsey.com. That's CHILLZEY.com. And if you order 6 or more of these tumblers and you punch in Bobcats when you check out, they're $15 a piece. And that's a pretty good deal. Those are great tumblers. Shout out to my guy, Dennis Redding. He's a true Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad himself. Can't thank him enough for sponsoring us and helping us pass out some sweet koozies during the season. We're going to have more of that. We'll have more of that coming up. Another good deal coming up with our guy, Dennis, at chilsey.com, CHILLZEY.com. All right, let's get to the meat of this sandwich, huh? Boy, it's funny when a lot of things were happening about a month ago with Jayden de Laura. And if you need a quick recap, we'll do it. We'll go real quick. So Jayden de Laura, Arizona quarterback, commits to Texas State. The next day, TJ Finley enters the portal. The day after that, Jayden de Laura signs with Texas State. He's announced by the school with 10 other mid-year enrollees. Then information starts to come out about a sexual assault civil suit that he had recently settled. That's a lot of S sounds right there. And that he recently settled literally the day before he signed. So there was a lot of uproar over that, which led to him withdrawing, which meant the Bobcats were without a quarterback. They didn't have Finley or Jaden Delora. They were looking at two freshmen on the roster, PJ Hatter, which we're a PJ Hatter pod. We still, at least me personally, I know the Wizard Zachary Webb. I got to get Reese Largent's his ruling on PJ Hatter, but we're a big PJ Hatter pod. But we know, you gotta have some good experience. You gotta have, especially going into the season. He, probably needs a little bit more development, but he's a real talented guy. So everybody was wondering what's going to happen. What's going to happen with this quarterback position? It's been the number one thing that's been DM'd to me, asked about for the last month. What's going on with the quarterback situation? We see Chandler Morris at UNT. He's not officially signed up there. He just committed from TCU, and that he was being kicked around. Especially with his dad being signed as the pass game coordinator here at Texas State. His dad, Chad Morris. So that was like, is that a possibility? Are they looking at him? Jordan McCloud, he hadn't found a home despite being in the portal since December. There was a few other names out there, but it was kind of slim pickings. And you look at McCloud, reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year, you're like, well, that's obviously exactly what they want, right? You would think, especially when you look at his style of play. You run that tape, and it just reminds you of Lindsey Scott Jr. and the success that GJ Kinney had with Lindsey Scott Jr. in 2022 at Incarnate Word. It's too easy to not envision that when you look at McCloud. They have very similar styles where, of course, they can both run, but neither one is a true dual threat. I mean, I would say they are a dual threat in the fact that they can run, but it's not their number one. It's not their number one deal. They're going to go through progressions before they take off. That's what I like about when you put on Scott and McCloud's film, you recognize that both. It's like with Malik Hornsby, that was the big knock in the spring last year when we were talking on the pod, and even leading into the season in fall camp when Finley was really starting to separate himself. It's that Hornsby has unreal athletic ability. He is very, very fast, but he tends to just look at one progression and then he takes off. He doesn't go through one, two, maybe even three, and then take off. You want to see them go through multiple before they decide to run. And you got that at Lindsey Scott at Incarnate Word, and you got that out of McCloud last year at JMU. So I'm excited to see that in this offense with Leftwich, with GJ Kinney, and how they can maximize what he already has done. I think it's a great landing spot for him. I know there's a lot of people since it's happened have reached out to me. People from outside of I guess the Texas State lexicon, if you will. They're like, well, why Texas State? That doesn't seem like of all his choices. You would think the reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year and the numbers that he put up, he'd have all his choices. But you look at GJ Kinney in the offense and how he has elevated consecutive transfer quarterbacks. I just mentioned Lindsey Scott last year with TJ Finley, single season program record his first year at Texas State after a pretty difficult start at LSU and then Auburn. He was able to put it all together and maximize what he can do and his capabilities. And so we've seen GJ Kinney be able to do that with guys who were journeymen that had rough ventures. Lindsey Scott, he was at LSU, and then he went to East Mississippi State. Then he went to Nichols before transferring to Incarnate Word and then putting it up. You know what? I think there was even a stop at Missouri somewhere in the middle. I think he went East Mississippi State and then to Missouri and then Nichols. So real long journey for Lindsey Scott before he finally was able to put it together under GJ Kinney and win the Walter Payton Award, 60 touchdowns, FCS record for most touchdown passes for Lindsey Scott. You turn to the next season with Finley and how it didn't go great as a true freshman at LSU. He transfers to Auburn for 2 seasons, and it didn't go great there either. Comes to Texas State and boom, puts it together. And all of a sudden he's a pretty marquee name. I think if Finley had hopped in the portal sooner in December, he probably would have ended up somewhere big. But honestly, Western Kentucky with Tyson Helton as the coach there, really good coach, Clay Helton's brother, actually. They have a really good offense. We've seen what they've been able to do with quarterbacks like Bailey Zappi, the transfer that they had last year. His name, I'm forgetting his name the last 2 years there, but he's done really well. So it's a good home for Finley as well. But just to see when he came in last year and flourished under Kinney, those were two guys that were almost rough pieces of clay, rough molds of clay that he was able to shape into something successful. McCloud's coming in already with success on his resume. Just won Sun Belt Player of the Year, as we were saying. First team Sun Belt quarterback. Let's see. I know I got some stats here. Hold on. Let's see. 3,657 yards passing, 35 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, rushed for another 276 yards and 8 scores. You see what I mean? He's definitely looking to pass more. Even just looking at those stats, it goes back to what I was saying about him earlier, where he's not 1,000 yard rusher. I think that's what I meant when I was saying not a true dual threat in that sense. He's not like a Lamar Jackson where you're going to get 1,000 yards. Yeah, Sunbelt Player of the Year, first team Sunbelt, Davey O'Brien Award semifinalist. I mean, the guy had a terrific season, and he's been a journeyman as well. We know him from JMU from last season. Fortunately, didn't play the Bobcats. Texas State didn't have to deal with Jordan McCloud last season in that JMU juggernaut 11-2 team. But if you go back and just looking at McCloud's journey, starts out at South Florida. He's from Tampa, or from his where he went to high school and everything. So he goes to South Florida. He's there his first 2 or 3 seasons. I think it might even be his 3 seasons. Because he played 2 seasons in 2019 and 2020. He redshirted in 2018. Started 20 games in those 2 years. Put together some really solid tape. They weren't the most successful team. He was a young quarterback. He was raw. It seemed like he relied more on running back then, and he is, especially at JMU. Not a ton of tape at Arizona, but at JMU, he really settled into being a pocket passer. But he took that success from South Florida. He goes to Arizona with Jaden DeLora. He actually was on the bench. Well, Jaden DeLora was starting in 2022, but he only played in 3 games. I think he had 2 touchdowns to 5 picks, if I'm remembering that. I should have wrote down his stats more thoroughly, his stats before JMU. Those are the only ones I put down, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was, just 2 touchdowns to 5 picks. So not a successful time with the Wildcats. Transfers to JMU, puts together a terrific season under Curt Cignetti. But that's the thing, is the head coach at JMU, Curt Cignetti, regular season ends, and he's off to Indiana even before the bowl game and everything. I can't say for sure if that's the catalyst for why McCloud decided to go in the transfer portal. Was his head coach left? What was going on with that whole situation? But he was looking for a new home. I thought he would have been scooped up a lot sooner, because he actually entered the transfer portal before playing in the bowl game, if I have that right. So he's been in the portal for a while. So it is interesting. I know there was a lot of rumors about Auburn with him. I know that Auburn's pretty set with who's their quarterback, Peyton Thorne, I think is his name. It's that Michigan State transfer. He didn't have a great year last year, but it's still a pretty good quarterback that they have coming back. So I imagine he saw that and saw he probably didn't have a for sure starting job, or even if he had the offer there. I don't know. I'm totally speaking on Twitter tea leaves that I've been reading as far as that situation, just to be clear on the reporting side of it. But it's no matter how it shook out, what other offers he had, he's a Bobcat. He ended up here. G.J. Kinney, I don't know what he says to him. I don't know. I don't know what his pitch is like, but I imagine there are salesmen across the world that would love to study it, because that guy can really recruit. That is his forte. He can win games and he can recruit. It's all ball. It's all ball, as we were saying. And this is a great way to redeem what had happened with that whole situation, because I really felt after the Bobcats won the bowl game, they were kind of the darlings of the G5 world, or one of the darlings, I should say, in the college football landscape. They finally did it. They got over the hump, all this good stuff, and people are feeling good about the Bobcats. They drank Ford Stadium dry at the bowl game. Like, people were really relishing in the Bobcats. And then all this happened, and people weren't too high on Texas State. I wasn't. I had a pretty negative reaction to the situation. I feel like most people did. But they were smart about it. They corrected it. They handled it, and look at them now. I mean, shoot, you can't argue with results. The process was a little bumpy. It's been a little bumpy the last couple months, but they got there, and they got their man with Jordan McCloud. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out with the spring too. What I mean, obviously McCloud's going to be here, and he's the front runner for being the starter in the fall. Of course, has to be. But PJ Hatter, still love to see him get some development in the spring. Of course, Brad Jackson, he's going to be a true freshman coming in. He's already enrolled, so he'll be here in the spring as well. But I think it's also going to be pretty nice for PJ Hatter to develop under McCloud, because I'm pretty sure McCloud just has 1 year. I mean, shoot, I think it's his seventh year, right? I know I put that out somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it's his seventh year. So PJ Hatter's time will come, but they're very similar. They're very similar quarterbacks. Right now PJ is a little more run happy than McCloud is, but that's how McCloud was when McCloud was younger, when he got to South Florida. So I think that's a really good template for him to work with. Even Brad Jackson, they're all similar sizes. They're all about 6 foot. Brad Jackson's not a dual threat. I'm sure he can move. I hope if he heard me say that, it offends him. He's like, hey man, I can get loose. And I believe him. I believe him. But they have similar styles. It's not varying styles. Like we saw TJ Finley, 6'7". Then Malik Hornsby, 6'1". More of he's a runner. TJ Finley, not a runner, not a dual threat. TJ Finley, though, he could get loose too. I remember going into it saying he's not a dual threat at all, and then he ran in a few touchdowns. So it'll be, I think it's a good room for these guys to develop in. You don't have to change very much going from quarterback to quarterback. The only thing that's really differentiating between them is experience. I mean, of course, there's better athletic ability in 24-year-old Jordan McCloud, which by the way, is 24 years old, which is, that's a mature quarterback for college football. So he's going to obviously have more strength and more ability in that sense, but that there's similar styles. I feel like are going to mesh really well as far as a coachability standpoint. With McCloud even coming in, I heard he committed over the weekend. I'm assuming they that's when they brought him in. They brought him in over the weekend, and that's when they were able to secure this commitment. It is interesting that it is before the portal window. The transfer portal window. The NCAA, the powers that be, they moved it so that there's a portal window in December, from like December 4th to the beginning of January, and then another one in April 16th to the 30th. Just a couple weeks right there for that one. And so this whole situation, I've even said it on this pod, I've been assuming, probably have to wait until then, until basically after spring practice before we have an idea who the Bobcats' next quarterback is. So probably see PJ Hatter, see a lot of Brad Jackson this spring, but he's already in the back. He's enrolled. He's starting class next week. And I guess they were able to find some sort of a loophole. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but it seems like it is a loophole, these 8-week sessions, where instead of a full semester, it's an 8-week session. And he is signed up to enroll in those 8-week sessions starting next week, which means he can be in spring practice. So interesting. The transfer portal, right when I feel like I'm starting to get my hands around everything about the transfer portal and all the little details and the caveats, it's like, oh man, and now you can circumvent things with an 8-week session. You don't have to wait for these windows. I'm assuming of 7 year, he's a grad transfer, which grad transfer makes it different. Once they're in graduate school, there's no restriction. I'm pretty sure at this point there isn't restrictions even if they're undergrad, but even before all the NCAA keeps getting their butt kicked in court. Uh, love seeing it. Just slowly but slowly they're pulling the bricks away, and it's gonna topple over. But with part of that is these restrictions on players being a transfer, even as undergrads, having any type of 1 year, they have to sit out a year when they transfer. That apparently has been deemed unlawful as things go more and more. So yeah, I mean, I guess because things are kind of up in the air, you can kind of maneuver and manipulate around certain portal windows and everything. But either way, I commend it. To me, it's like if you think about it from like a professional program or professional organization like an NFL team or UFL or any of those, where it's just some like cat maneuvering, like a general manager doing some shifting with that, figuring out when you can get them in for under this amount and staying under this. It's like they're trying to get the player in before the 8 week session, make sure that they can get in there and enroll so they can be there in the spring. But it's a heck of a move. And I wonder, obviously the JDL situation changed everything, changed their approach, changed their strategy, changed what they were looking for. But I wonder if there was always a plan to even find another quarterback, especially if they were like, okay, Delores in, Finley's out, so is Malik Hornsby, so is CJ Rogers. Do you maybe still need somebody else? So I wonder if they still had McCloud kind of on their radar a little bit. I can't imagine that would have gone over well if 2 1-year guys who have a year, both of them, Delore, McCloud, if they came in, they both have a year left. I'm sure that wouldn't have gone over great. But that leads me to the next question: is are they going to get another quarterback? Are they looking for a backup for McCloud? I mean, like I've said, like PJ Hatter, I think he should be the backup. I would be comfortable with it. You would imagine that you would want at least somebody else to shore up that rotation, because then after that, Brad Jackson, true freshman, just out of high school, he probably needs time to develop. I can imagine that they're still looking at some of those options. Can you go get a JUCO? Can you go get somebody a transfer that is probably okay with the fact that they won't be a starter and bring them in just to shore up the rotation. Because we've seen GJ Kinney do this before, where he had Hornsby, he had CJ Rogers, he had Ty Evans. Wasn't enough. He went out and got TJ Finley. So I have to imagine he's still racking his brain, trying to strategize and think about what am I going to do here? Am I going to bring in another person? I'm ready to see PJ Hatter cook in spring. I'm ready to see Jordan McCloud cook in spring. Yeah, I'm excited for the spring. It's coming up. Spring ball is right around the corner. And I hope they open it up at least a little bit for us. And I got a Monday through Friday job these days. So I'll hopefully just open it up on Saturday. Uh, yeah, College Football Network. Job's going great, by the way, collegefootballnetwork.com. Go check us out. You can see that Jordan McCloud article right there on the front page. It's been nice. It's been nice I've been writing about a lot of other teams, been writing about Hawaii, I wrote a little bit about Liberty over the weekend. But I've been getting in there with some Texas State articles as well. And so that's been nice. I've been able to, even with this situation where it was starting to develop yesterday, I had a pretty good idea about 2 o'clock on Monday of the situation. I let my editor know, Oliver Hodgkinson, shout out to Ollie, all the way in England. I let him know, hey, I'm pretty sure this is going to go down. So he was like, I don't want you put something together before so that when it happens, boom, we're already on top of it. Which was that was different from newspaper days, where it was like, hey, this happened. Like, okay, great, it'll come out tomorrow or something like that. This was, hey, this just happened. Boom, article was already out, and I was pretty proud of that. And this is the first article I have on the front page, collegefootballnetwork.com. So go check them out. CFN 365 on Twitter too. If you're on Twitter, and they need more followers. 2.6 thousand on the big account. We got to get that up because the main account is Pro Football Network, profootballnetwork.com, and their PFN 365. They've got 50,000 followers. We got to catch up. Got to catch up on the CFN side. But yeah, it's been nice to get that Texas State content up. Get it as soon as something happens, some news breaks. It's like boom, we have something right there. That's a nice development. So I hope y'all are seeing that. Like I'm not done with the Bobcats. I had a little bit of pushback on Twitter whenever I announced the job. It's just a little bit. people saying like, oh, the Bobcats are good and now you're going to forget about us. No, absolutely not. The pod lives. We have big plans for the pod coming up this season. We have new members in Win Now or Get Bent, new teammates with my guy Reese Largent. I'm gonna have him on a good episode next time. He was up there for the Round Rock Classic. Didn't go great for Texas State baseball. They did get a nice win over Washington State, who won the little tournament. But it's a long season. I think they need help with pitching. It's kind of been an issue. But yeah, I'm gonna have Reese come on. We have big plans for Reese. We have big plans for the Wizard, Zachary Webb. You guys haven't heard from him in a while. We got to have him on. No, I have not forgotten the Bobcats by any means. It's a new job. It's really nice for me and my family to, after the Statesman discontinued me, to be able to almost find something better where I can remain and still do all the stuff that I love. And the thing that I love the most is Texas State. Well, obviously my family, but Bobcats, they're right there too. So we're gonna be here talking cats, especially when it's good, exciting news like today. But we'll keep it brief. I want to do another. It's been a minute since we've had an episode, getting acclimated with the new job, getting nice and comfy with that. It is interesting that today I am actually off today. It's Tuesday when I'm recording this, putting it out Tuesday as well. But I'm off today. Usually I'm Monday through Friday because I switched to be on Saturday so that I could do some covering of the scouting combine, the NFL scouting combine. And it worked out because I was like, hey, you know what? I'm off. Jump on and do a pod. Let's get it. So perfect timing. That worked out great. Shout out to GJ Kinney. Shout out to the Texas State Bobcats. You did the thing. That was impressive. Fired up for 2024. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/win-now-or-get-bent. I posted some basketball stuff not too long ago. Reese is up there putting in some football and baseball content. Let's go check us out there, patreon.com/win-now-or-get-bent. WNOGB.com for awesome merch. I got the Sicko shirt right here. Bang. WNOGB.com for that. YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. Subscribe, like, start an account for your friends, family members, all that stuff. We get those numbers up, it makes us feel good when the pod grows. Check us out on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Win Now or Get Bent. On Instagram at WNOGB. Man, I haven't posted on Instagram in forever. That's why I probably got to get Reese on these social media stuff. He's a young man. Need to get some of his youth in these social media platforms. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff on our audio channels, Apple, Spotify, on YouTube, if you like to watch the visual one. Shout out to my guy, Aaron Needham. I actually ran into him right before I started recording. I was picking up my wife. She's due in a month. We're getting real close, people. But I was picking her up a Subway sandwich before I started recording the pod. And as I was walking out, I was stopped by Aaron Needham. Said he's a fan of the pod, listens to it. So shout out to Aaron Needham. He recognized me, so I guess he listens. He watches on the YouTube channel, which is nice. That's a win for Webb. The Wizard likes to hear that people are watching the YouTube channel. So shout out to Aaron Needham, First National Bank. He's a Texas State grad, still working here in San Marcos. I love seeing that. That's always cool. People graduate from Texas State and they remain. That's something that obviously I believe in. I've done the same thing myself. So shout out to Aaron. Just a shout out to Aaron. But yeah, thank you to Aaron for recognizing me in the pod. That made me feel great. Thanks to TGC. Really appreciate you. Rick Galindo. Thank you to Chilsey.com as well. Thank you to Zach Webb, the Wizard, for producing the pod, making me look great. It's fantastic. Shout out to Reese. Going to have him on soon. Reese Largent. Go follow him on Twitter. My guy, Reese Largent, bringing the heat. And of course, thank you, sickos, tuning in. Sorry, it's been a little bit of a gap between the last episode, but it's that time of year where there's not a ton going on with football and basketball is depressing. And, do you notice why I glossed over? I went to 30 minutes on I tried to get a whole 30 minutes without being depressed about basketball, but it's a bit of a bummer. But that's okay because softball's humming. We got to have Reese on to talk some of these sports. I know he's a big seam head, so we're gonna talk some of the stuff. But alrighty, sickos. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Be shouting out into the void if it weren't for you. So I love you. Thanks for being here. Jordan McCloud. Wow. Jordan McCloud. My day's made. My week's made. This is going to be a lot of fun, people. All right, everybody. Until next time, win now or get bent.